Pooley hits the line, 32.48, best time by 43 seconds. Jeannie Longo will have to sit in the silver medal seat right now because Emma Pooley has finished and goes top. So the woman who got silver in the Olympic Games is now sitting in gold.
Well, Emma Pooley responsible really for assisting Nicole Cook to win the gold medal in Beijing. She was a phenomenal climber on a very difficult course.
Hello, I'm Emma and I'm new to GCN. I'm going to tell you a bit about myself. Don't worry, it won't take long because I speak really fast. I didn't get into cycling until I was in my 20s. In fact, I think I was about 21. And I got injured running and I borrowed a bike to cross-train because I needed to do some exercise. And I hated it to start with. I was cold, it was winter, didn't have any decent kit, didn't have any knee warmers or arm warmers. The saddle was really uncomfortable. It was just miserable. I definitely had no plan to get into bike races. In fact, I did want to do triathlon, but if you'd seen me on a bike, you would never, ever have picked me as a bike racer. And in fact, in my first time trial, which I did just as training, I got beaten by a guy in a gorilla suit who was wearing his lycra over his gorilla outfit, which was pretty embarrassing. I think I kept cycling because of the people. So I made friends who were cyclists, and there was a cycling club in Cambridge, and everyone was really supportive and friendly, and I enjoyed the cafe stops, and then I enjoyed the friendly competition on rides, and then a friend persuaded me to do a race, and so I did a crit, and then eventually I won a crit, and I was pretty excited about it, and I caught the bug, I suppose. I did more and more group rides, and tried a few races, and I think I won my first proper road race with a 50k solo breakaway, and I can tell you I was just as surprised as everyone else. But that was really that was my defining tactic in the end, and I did it a few more times before they got wise to it. So when I started out cycling, what I really wanted to win was a mountains jersey from a race. I thought it was just super cool, the polka dot jersey thing, and I was definitely more of a climber, so that was my main ambition. And in all my years racing, I got a few climbers jerseys, but never a polka dot one, because none of our races had the climbers jersey with polka dots. I've had green, I've had blue, I've had grey, all kinds of colours, but never polka dots. I think looking back, so many races that I really look back on with fondness and sort of pride, especially ones where I was racing for a teammate and you know, helping someone else to win. But the one that really stands out probably is the first time I won a World Cup, which was total fluke. But I got away in a sort of surprise attack and didn't even mean to, and did 70k solo to win. And yeah, it was pretty surprising for everybody. And I actually got the World Cup leaders jersey at that race, so that was really awesome. Very surprising. Now, I was definitely a climber, and I loved going up. I didn't much love going down, and sometimes I was okay at time trialing, but it really depended on the course. So when I did well, it needed some hills. I was not great when it was flat. I think you know what that one is. So descending was the bane of my cycling for many years, and it really got me down. I started late, and I had a few crashes early on, and I got really scared. I, in fact, developed a bit of a phobia. I had nightmares about descending, and I think I actually became a better climber because I knew I needed a good 2 to 3 minutes on every climb just to stay ahead of everyone for the descent. And you know, it ruined so many races for me. I was in the leader's jersey at the Giro Rosa one year and lost it on a descent because everybody knew I was rubbish at descending, so they would always attack me on descents, which was really upsetting, and I felt like an idiot. Luckily, I had a coach who was brilliant and very patient, and he slowly taught me right from scratch how to descend. So I went from rubbish to okay. I was never good, but I was okay, and that was normally just about good enough. That's Bira, Imakomin Bira. I lost that race on the descent, so I never actually won it. so many bad days on the bike. I think anyone who's raced a bike will know that it is a tough sport, and there's a lot of blood, literally, and sweat and tears, literally, that go into bike races. So many races that you don't see where the result's been terrible. I was dropped so many times. But probably the worst one was a stage of touring in 2016 when I had a pretty nasty crash, and I barely could use one leg. I really badly hurt my back, and it was only 3 weeks before the Olympics, and I knew it was not great for the Olympics. Two favourite things to eat on the bike are, well, one's a Swiss thing called a bibeli, which is a bit like gingerbread with a nut filling. It's sweet, but not too sweet, and they're very compact, so you can pack a lot of calories into a small space. And the other thing is that I bake these porridge muffins, I guess. I call them pocket porridge. Sounds really boring, but actually they're quite tasty, especially if you put fruit or nuts in them. My favourite food is a difficult question because I really like lots of different kinds of food, but probably cheese. I love cheese, and one season I was told I shouldn't eat cheese because it wasn't good for me, so I didn't eat cheese for a whole season, and it just made me like it even more. And so now probably my favourite meal is cheese with a nice crisp apple and a cup of tea or a glass of red wine. As someone who started cycling fairly late, I really feel strongly that everyone should be encouraged to take up cycling whatever age, and the best advice I think I can give is to ride with other people. Whether it's friends or a club, just go out with other people because you learn so much from more experienced cyclists, and the cycling community is really welcoming and friendly. I learned so much from other people and from teammates as well, obviously. And then the other bit of advice is specifically for women, which is something a teammate told me many years ago when I was stressed about things at races. And she said, Emma, it's not a beauty contest. And I think that's great advice because, you know, everybody wants to look good, but that's not the point of cycling. And I sometimes think that women's sport is kind of glamorized, and people worry so much about how they look that they don't want to go out running or cycling or whatever. And so I think, you know, it's nice to look good if you can, but it's not the point. And don't ever be put off going cycling because you're worried how your hair looks or something. It's really not the point. I got a reputation, certainly in the last few years of my career, for being outspoken because I sort of spoke up about things that I thought weren't great in the sport and I wanted it to improve. And I don't regret that, although sometimes I think some people didn't much like me at the top of the UCI. But the point is that cycling is a really rich sport with a lot of history, and it may be a little bit backward in some ways, but it's definitely improving. And the best thing is that there's a real increase in women's cycling at grassroots, and so many more women taking up the sport. And women's racing is so exciting, and when people get to watch it, then they really love it. So if you're not into women's cycling already, go and watch some. Of course, cycling isn't just a sport, it's also a hobby, it's a way of staying fit, it's a way of transporting yourself and your stuff, and it's a hugely powerful tool for social and economic growth. And for example, the work that World Bicycle Relief does is a really good example of that, where they help girls get to school, for example, in countries where otherwise they'd have to walk a long way. So I retired from cycling for the first time in 2014 because I wanted to do some of the really epic races in triathlon that when, you know, there were races in triathlon in the mountains that I never got to race up as a cyclist because we don't have so many stage races that go in the mountains, sadly. So I really wanted to do Alpe d'Huez and Ventoux and Embrun, all those really big races, and I did, and it was really fun, and I don't regret it. Sadly, I'm still rubbish at swimming, so I was never very good at the big races, but the ones that involve mountains, I could make up for my lack of swimming. And when there was no swimming involved in duathlon, which is running, biking, running, I turned out to be okay at that. So I won the World Championships, the long distance World Championships. That was good. So my first job after uni was as a research assistant at ETH Zurich. I had a research fellowship, and I was researching in geotechnical engineering. And that's just happened to be my first job. It was about the same time that I was getting into cycling. And in the end, it took me 8 years to finish, which is a bit embarrassing given that it was supposed to take 3. But I was racing a lot and working part-time in the end. And my PhD supervisor was hugely supportive. So I really had to finish it because otherwise it would have let her down. And the last year was tough because I really struggled to write up my thesis. So I'm quite proud that I did because it was one of the hardest parts of my life, really. I guess a new job is always a bit scary and worrying, and I'm a little bit worried about the presenter challenge because I don't think I'm going to get as much time to train now, and it's clearly quite serious and I don't want to lose. So I'm worried about that. And there's also then the nickname thing, which is, who knows what it'll be, but I've heard rumours that it might be Brick 2 or the Briquette, which is fine by me because I think Tom Last is awesome and I would be proud to be associated with him.
I think you're funny. Wow.
The first few weeks have been a bit crazy busy, but so much fun. It's a really great team to work with, and one filming shoot, I laughed so hard that I got stomachache. It's just brilliant, and it's just also really exciting planning other things to do, so hearing back from viewers what you want to see, and I'm hoping you send in lots of feedback that you want to see epic mountains. I'm going to ride the Maratona Dolomiti this year, which I've wanted to do for years, so that's really cool, and I think maybe some other epic rides, hopefully maybe involving gravel, now that I'm learning to ride gravel.